All right. It is 12 o'clock on the Pacific Coast, and so we are going to get started. Thank you to those of you who have jumped in right away. We're excited to have a little bit of time together, but we know it is impossible to find a time, especially on a work day, for so many folks to step out and join us. So we are going to be recording today's conversation and sending that out. So as people join us, that's fantastic. And for those that are maybe watching later at home, welcome to everyone. We are so excited to have our 2026 town hall meeting. We are going to spend a little bit of time looking back over 2025. Reporting back to our community is just so important to us. Joining me today is Daphne Fowler, our Global Impact Director. Daphne, thank you for being with us today. We're going to hear quite a bit from you as you highlight some of just the incredible partnerships that we've been able to enjoy. And I'm Carissa Youssef, the Executive Director here at One Day's Wages. And I just want to start by saying thank you to each one of you in our giving community. We feel so privileged to work alongside of a community that is so committed to justice and dignity and locally led partner or poverty alleviation partnerships. So thank you for being here today to kind of celebrate what has been done. And then we're going to share a little bit about 2026 and about what we're excited about this year. So we're glad that you're here. Reporting back, as I said, is an important part of our commitment to you, believing that we are a community in this together and that you are putting us in a position of trust to be able to build these partnerships and make some of these decisions. So we want to really invest back into you by letting you know about the year. So that's really our heart is to keep you in the loop. And that's really what today is all about. We want meaning and mutuality in our community and through our generosity. So welcome here. I want to start by just kind of reiterating our mission statement. This is what it's all about. One Day's Wages exists to alleviate extreme poverty by investing in, amplifying, and coming alongside locally led organizations in underserved communities. And this is why we get up out of bed every day. This is what we exist to do. We're going to break down that mission statement just a little bit through some of our storytelling and some of our reporting. So I hope that you travel along here with us. I wanted to just kind of chat for a couple of minutes here at the beginning, again, to kind of frame the context of our work through sharing a little bit about our theory of change. Now, just to start, a theory of change is kind of a sector phrase. It's something we say a lot in the nonprofit space, but ultimately what it means is this is how we believe change happens. This is how we believe that we can report back against our mission statement. So I just wanted to take a couple minutes to set this up. Many of you might be familiar with it. This comes directly from our 2025 impact report. That is, hopefully you've seen it. We've shared it out through our monthly newsletter. It's also on our website under our transparency tab. So feel free to take a look at it later, follow along if you'd like. So our why as an organization and our goal have not changed in 16 years. This has been our faithful North Star. And so I just want to kind of reiterate where we're at. Even in a changing world, why we exist has not changed. The numbers of people impacted by poverty do change, but this is our why. Globally, more than 800 million people experience extreme poverty, which we define, and there's lots of definitions out there for poverty, but we're defining it as living on less than $3 a day. So extreme poverty means lacking basic necessities such as what you need for like basic survival, food, water, income, healthcare, education. And we deeply believe that leaders in communities around the world deeply understand the needs their community is facing. But sadly, only about 5% of global development funding actually goes directly to these local organizations that are experiencing the need and that have deep knowledge of how to meet those needs and the solutions that it requires. That is why we exist. We want to, as I said in our mission statement, we want to invest in, amplify the work of, and come alongside these incredible organizations around the world who are meeting these needs of basic necessities to meet, alleviate poverty. That's our why. That's why we're doing what we're doing. And our goal ultimately is a more just and beautiful world in which these local organizations have the resources they need, they have the confidence they need, and they have the capacity they need to support flourishing communities. So I want to just sandwich our conversation today in those things. They have not changed. We are committed at One Day's Wages to those ideas. Now, what we do has changed a little bit, not huge, but because life changes, circumstance changes, the moment we find ourselves in both poverty alleviation spaces and in development spaces and in global context, we need to adjust our practices like any other organization. And so we want to just share with you a little bit more about the 3 different ways, as reflected in our mission statement, that we're showing up in this space to help alleviate poverty. So we invest into locally led organizations. And that part is where you guys are absolutely critical, because we fundraise and we grant out money through everyday ordinary people. Just like you and me. And so we invest those funds and your generosity into flexible multi-year funding for projects that are directly supporting poverty reduction solutions. We also want to amplify the work that these partners are already doing. We want their impact and expertise to be exposed to a much wider audience. We want you to know them. We want your networks to know them. We try to celebrate them on social media as in any appropriate way. We want to just already kind of just put a spotlight on what these incredible leaders are doing around the world. So we're going to introduce you to a few a little bit later on through some stories, and I'll hand it over to Daphne for that in just a minute. We also want to come alongside our partners in really, really practical ways. We want to make sure that they have the tools and the resources and the network and ideas, in addition to funding, that they need. And we recognize that we are in a position to just sort of be a catalyst and a bridge builder in that sense. I certainly don't have the knowledge needed to be able to completely accomplish our mission. My team won't say that either. But what we need is each other. We need to have spaces for mutual learning. And what I probably, one of my highlights of the year is being able to participate on some Zoom calls where we're learning from our partners and our partners are learning from each other. And so that's really what we are referencing right now when it says we want to come alongside. We want to expose different resource libraries and ideas to each other in any way possible. So I won't say more about that right now, but these are the 3 different ways we're expressing our mission statement. So if you have any other specific questions about that, don't hesitate to send an email, or if there's something you think that you could help us with in this way, we would love to have a conversation. I'm going to pass it off to Daphne a little bit to talk just briefly about our guiding principles and how that applies to our work and how we make some decisions. And from there, we're going to talk a little bit more just about some of our amazing partners and some of the things that were accomplished this year. So Daphne, over to you.
Thanks, Carissa. Well, like Carissa shared, we put a lot of attention into why we do our work and what we do, but just as important to us is how we do our work. And this is why our work is so driven by our values and principles, because the way that we choose to come alongside our partners, we think makes just as big of an impact, if not more, as sending grant funds to these organizations. So these are very interwoven with our mission, but we are first driven by our principle of supporting locally led solutions. Like Carissa said, we're not the experts. We're not going in and telling partners, we think this is what you need. We think this is what you should do. They're the ones that come to us with their ideas. They've gone out into their communities. They've asked for their feedback about their needs, about what they're able to contribute to the project, what their dreams are as a community. And then they design projects around those ideas, and we come alongside these partners. So as much as possible, our work is locally led. And then our second principle has to do with sustainability. And I know this is a word that gets thrown around a lot in a lot of different types of contexts. For us, what it means is that, first of all, we understand poverty as something that's very complex. There aren't one-off solutions. You're not going to see the end of poverty in a year or through just one intervention, like installing a well somewhere. Poverty is complex, and so it requires integrated long term interventions that over time enable a community to have sustainable, sustained access to food and to income and to water and to these different basic needs. So when we're choosing to come alongside partners, that's something we're really looking closely at. Which of these interventions are things that are community owned and will be long lasting within a community for many years to come? And then our third principle is collective contributions. And this really has to do with One Day's Wages founding story. And the idea of the whole organization was this idea that all of us, ordinary people, can come together and we can give what we're able to. And collectively, that is what makes a long lasting impact. And that applies also to our partners. So in our partnerships, we're looking for partners who really leverage the gifts and the contributions within a community. So for example, last year we had a partner, Sidi in Tanzania, that was doing a fish farming project. And they convinced the local government to donate land for the project. And then they recruited volunteers from within the community to dig these fish ponds, which is a big effort, takes a lot of effort. That's a lot of labor. So they were using the gifts within the community to support the work. They weren't just depending on money that we were sending. And similarly, another of our partners last year, Pro Rural in the Nagaland region of India, they were basically launching a mobile healthcare service and so they retrofitted an ambulance for this purpose. So alongside the funding that we sent them, they hosted community bake sales and raffles and all kinds of just really small grassroots level fundraising efforts to contribute to the purchase of this ambulance that's now providing healthcare services throughout this whole region of Nagaland that previously didn't have access to healthcare services. And then finally, we have a principle of reducing vulnerabilities. So we know that poverty is widespread everywhere, but some people in some communities are especially vulnerable to the most extreme forms of poverty. And so we're not just supporting projects that meet basic needs, we're also choosing to come alongside partners that really intentionally are working with people and with communities who are the ones most likely to be experiencing extreme poverty. So this might include communities experiencing the impacts of climate change that are then impacting their farming yields or their livelihood opportunities. Or it might mean working in communities where there's a high prevalence of human trafficking, and poverty drives trafficking and trafficking drives poverty. And so by coming alongside partners in these areas, the idea is that these interventions both meet basic needs but also build resilience in communities that are the ones most vulnerable to extreme poverty. We can go on to the next slide. Carissa, thank you. So like Carissa shared, there have been several changes in the last few years as we've adjusted our model a bit. And we took time this year to look back just at the last 2 years at the progress that has been made toward what we call our refreshed partnership model. That's still in line with the original mission and intentions of the organization, but tweaked to really lean into longer term partnerships based on trust and collaboration. So if you can see the numbers on the screen here, again, you can take a closer look in our annual impact report, but just 2 years ago, 53% of our partnerships were with locally founded and led organizations. And last year, 100%, all of the new partnerships that we approved were with locally founded and led organizations. And you'll meet the founder of one of those organizations in just a minute. I'll share a bit of his story with you. Um, One of the most significant changes is in the percentage of the funds we send to partners that are going toward multi year grants instead of just 1 year grants at a time. So, 2 years ago, 6% of our funding was going toward multi year partnerships. And last year, 64% of the funding was. So, again, it's probably not too hard to imagine that if you're receiving one year of funding at a time for a project, it really limits the extent to which you can invest in poverty alleviation and measure the impact, see the impact of it in just a year. So that's been a really exciting area of growth for us. And then finally, we've put a lot of effort into providing more resource sharing opportunities for our partners and just ways for us to collaborate with each other. Again, our partners hold so much expertise. We're not the experts. So the idea is that we're bringing partners together for them to share their expertise with each other, really learn from each other, and collaborate in different ways. We also compile different resources that we share through an online resource library. And then we host webinars and virtual gatherings for our partners at least quarterly for them to come together and learn and share with each other. And
Thanks,
back to
Daphne. Yeah,
Carissa. Yeah.
appreciate it. One of the things we always want to report back on is just our stewardship of your generosity. And so, included in our impact report is a little comparison between last year, or I should say 2024 and 2025, because last year is what we're chatting about today. I just wanted to name that 2025 was an incredibly disruptive year for funding in the poverty alleviation space. And I don't know how to put into words the pride and joy that I felt by watching our community respond to that. We don't receive any government funding, but our community said, we are here for this. We want to help. And so there was a surge in giving last year in Q1 that Daphne and I were just so delighted by. We were able to send some extra funds to some of our partners who had been impacted by cuts from government funding, and to be able to see programs kind of have bridge funding. We called it stopgap funding. And I mean, that was just a remarkable thing to be a part of. And so I just wanted to start by saying thank you for that in particular. And in the midst of such significant disruption, we were just so grateful to see that our revenue was pretty much the same in 2025 as it was in 2024, which speaks to remarkable resilience from our community, because so many people were suffering from layoffs or from just disruption in their own lives. And then as well, it marks, 2024 and 2025 were sort of this beginning of us not doing matching grants anymore. And so all of this revenue, for the most part, represents individual giving, people who have said, we're all in on this mission. And so I just wanted to share my profound gratitude for each and every one of you for participating in that. We feel really joyful and hold that stewardship responsibility very seriously. Our goal is to give away as much as we can, and that has not changed. I also wanted to just reiterate again, just from a model perspective, that we fundraise for every grant that goes out. And so we get to say yes to new partnerships predominantly because of the steady, faithful giving of this community, particularly to those who give monthly. Knowing we have that income coming allows us to feel more secure doing multi-year grants and to have these partnerships, because we want to make sure that when we say yes, that we know we can say that confidently for several years. And so I just wanted to say thank you again, especially for that community who has chosen to say yes month after month after month. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And on the expense side, of course, we work so hard to be diligent and good care keepers of the funds entrusted to us. We are a very lean team. We are 2 full-time and 2 part-time staff members, and we have a digital first approach to our fundraising fundraising efforts. And so we try to do as much as we can for as little cost as possible. So obviously it takes funds to run an organization, and we feel really privileged to be your representatives in this work. But that is some of the things that you can count on from us is just we are lean, and we will always try to be digital first and as much as we can just to keep our costs low. So I also wanted to say thank you to each person that's helped us just kind of get to know the community a little bit more by taking our surveys and our phone calls and meeting for coffee. We're trying so hard to get all of this right and to just steward the responsibility ahead of us. So this investment report reflects that, both the learning and the heart and the desire to care well for what you have trusted us with. All of this information and our financials as well are on our website. So don't hesitate to send an email or pick up the phone if you have any additional questions. I'd feel really privileged to have that conversation. I'm going to turn it back over, Daphne, again to you, this time maybe for a few more stories and a few more practical kind of behind the scenes updates on some of the impact that happened in 2025.
Yeah, thanks, Carissa. Um, well, the idea here is just to give you a sense of what your generosity was able to support throughout this past year. And so last year, we were able to come alongside 28 different partner organizations working in 15 countries. Again, some of these are kind of legacy matching grants or 1 year grants, and some of these are partners that we are now doing multi-year partnerships with. So these partner organizations and the types of projects they implement reflect kind of a mix of our legacy approach and then our refreshed partnership model. You'll notice the countries highlighted in red there where we supported projects last year. We partner almost exclusively in countries that are ranked low or medium on the Human Development Index, which is an index that looks at poverty from a more multidimensional perspective. So instead of just looking at GDP or money, this index is also looking at things like education and literacy levels, water access, healthcare access. So the idea is that we're investing in countries that have the most significant needs, the highest percentages of people living in extreme poverty. Again, acknowledging that there is poverty everywhere, there is need everywhere, but with our small grants and the amount of resources we have available, we intentionally choose to invest in areas that have the highest levels of vulnerability and highest levels of extreme poverty. So again, like we shared, one of our values and strategies is to come alongside locally founded and led organizations. So I want to introduce you to Victor. Victor is the co-founder and executive director of one of our partners in Nairobi, Kenya, called the Garden of Hope Foundation. And Victor, I had the opportunity to meet last summer and visit, which was such a privilege. He's hilarious, and I loved hearing a bit more of his own story. So he grew up in a large informal settlement area, which are also called slum communities, but informal settlement is considered the more kind of a commonly used word for these types of settlements these days. So he grew up in a large informal settlement, kind of on the outskirts of Nairobi, Kenya. And he experienced a lot of the restrictions that came with living in that environment. So limited access to resources, violence within the community that impacted his friends. And he had the opportunity to go to school and had some people invest in him. And he would have had the opportunity to leave and go elsewhere. And instead, he chose to use his life and his vocation to reinvest in his home community. So he is the co-founder of Garden of Hope Foundation, which works with schools and with women's groups to help facilitate access to opportunity. It's a very, very crowded, highly populated area. And because it's an informal settlement, the government doesn't provide the same services that it does in other neighborhoods. So even kind of like sewage treatment and water and paved roads, these are things that community members don't have the same access to. When we asked Victor what the impact of One Day's Wages partnership was for him and his organization, he shared with us, beyond financial support, the One Day's Wages partnership has strengthened our organizational capacity, enhanced our credibility, and expanded our networks, enabling us to reach more communities and deliver sustainable, locally led change. What stood out to me so much when Victor shared this with us is that, again, it's not just the money or the grant funds. They felt like this partnership made them more reputable for other donors and for community members, helped them to connect with other organizations doing similar work. And that's what we love to hear. We love to see, as you've heard, we put a lot of thought into how we partner. And so hearing these responses from partners about the impact that has had on them beyond project funding is something that's really powerful for us. So, like I said, we come alongside local partners, and these partners are doing poverty alleviation initiatives in 10 different areas of impact. So, some of these causes that we support are focused on meeting basic needs like food, income, healthcare. Oh my goodness, I'm going to blank now. Clean water and children's education. And then some of our cause areas are more specifically focused on building resilience. And so we have a focus on refugee resilience for people who are experiencing displacement, a focus on trafficking prevention and recovery, a focus on social inclusion for women or ethnic groups that tend to be marginalized and excluded. And then we also support emergency relief projects. So in many cases, the projects our partners are actually very integrated. So a partner who is working to improve climate resilience might also be working on job creation, increasing farming yields. Similarly, a partner who is working on trafficking prevention might take the approach of not just creating more awareness about trafficking, but also connecting people vulnerable to trafficking or connecting survivors of trafficking to jobs so that they are less vulnerable to trafficking. So these are just a few of the numbers that we collect, and we collect these kind of across all of our projects. And again, they're on one hand just numbers, and on the other hand, they reflect thousands of people, thousands of lives who gained access to needed resources and experienced improved resilience over the past year. So you see like over 25,000 people gained access to clean water through our partnerships last year. And again, this isn't just access to water. It means that people have improved health. It means that women are spending less time collecting water and have more time for other things. So these all have very integrated impacts with each other. Beyond the numbers, I wanted to share just a couple of stories with you. First is Miriamu. And again, I had the opportunity to meet Miriamu in Malawi last summer. I was so blown away by our partner Soferis's work in Malawi. This is an organization that was founded and is entirely led by refugees living within Dzaleka refugee camp in Malawi. Miriamu is one of them. She is a widowed farmer from the Democratic Republic of Congo who fled her home country due to conflict and violence with her two children. And when she came to Dzaleka refugee camp, all she was able to rely on for food or income was the $5 food vouchers that the World Food Program provides for refugees living there. And she shared with me that the word that she used was despised. She felt despised, that she didn't have a job or a support network, like any source of livelihood. And so, apart from experiencing trauma in her home country, um, she also craved something to do with her time. She craved and desired a way to provide for her family and something to do with her time, because you're really just living in limbo in this refugee camp, without any clear pathway of what the next chapter looks like for you. So Miriamu became part of a farmers cooperative that was organized by our partner Soferis. These farmers cooperatives were one of the initiatives that we supported last year and actually are continuing to support now as part of an ongoing multi-year partnership. So through this partnership, Miriamu was able to rent land outside of the camp in order to grow food on it. Some of the food she grew to feed her two children, but she was also able to sell food at local marketplaces to earn some income and be able to enroll her children in school. Actually, Soferis just sent me a photo 2 days ago of Miriamu selling potatoes at the local market. She had a really good potato harvest recently, and is able to sell those for income. So when I had a conversation with Miriamu, she shared with me, in my family, there is great change. I'm able to provide for my children and send them back to school. I am confident that I can be a leader. So she is actually now leading one of these women's farming cooperatives and coming alongside even more women. Most of them are widows like she is, who don't have kind of any other additional kind of support beyond what the camp provides. And she is a change maker in her own community now, even despite the really difficult situation that she's living in. And then a second story I wanted to share with you is from a midwife in Afghanistan whose name was not shared with us, just to protect her safety and security. But you may recall that last August, there was a large earthquake in the eastern part of Afghanistan, and we put out a call for help. Our partner in Afghanistan, Action for Development, wanted to send a mobile health clinic to this region. We already partner with Action for Development in order to support training for midwives in Afghanistan. And so when they said they wanted to send this mobile clinic, we knew it was something they had expertise in, they had a plan, and we were able to send funding that enabled them to launch this mobile clinic within a few days of the earthquake and send help there. In Afghanistan, male doctors aren't allowed to treat female patients. So you'll see this is the medical crew in the top photo here that Action for Development sent, and you'll see that midwives were included in the team so that they could treat female patients. And I loved the story that one of the midwives who went along in this medical team shared back with us. She said, the impact of our work was clear. Pain and suffering were reduced, the spread of disease was prevented, and hope and calm returned to families who had lost so much. It reminded me of the true value of service and the power of helping others in their darkest hours. And I think what was so powerful for me is that this is coming from a midwife who faces extensive restrictions in her home country. Women in Afghanistan are already in incredibly vulnerable positions. And despite that, she chose to be part of a medical team that's going out and helping a community facing devastation, and was reminded of her own capacity to serve and help others. even in the face of the difficult situation she finds herself in. So, again, it was really a powerful thing to be able to have our supporters come together and say, yes, this is something we want to support. And then we could send that money right away to Action for Development so they could get this mobile clinic launched. So, again, thank you. Um, yeah, we can't say enough how much your generosity and willingness to respond is having really powerful impact on our partners in the communities they're working in. And Chris, I'll hand it back to you.
Fantastic. Thank you. I think it's probably good that I still get emotional hearing some of these stories and some of the impact we've been able to have. It's just an incredibly it's incredibly meaningful. I think you can wake up in the morning and whether it's a good habit or not, I have several different news sources I check kind of in the first thing in my day. And there's a lot going on in the world and there's a lot of things that we could do. And I think it's a very human response to sort of tap out because it can be so overwhelming. And I know that we all hold our own things as well, families and local community context of things. And so, yeah, just we're so grateful we get to say yes to some of these responses. And I hope that we do you justice in sharing some of this impact back. That's why we do things like this. We want you to know that it's not just, we're not just sending money, but there's such a ripple effect of change and of empowerment and of strengthening systems. And, these people, we're not making leaders, we're just revealing leaders. They already have all of that strength inside of themselves, but simply need to know that there's people willing to come alongside. So anyways, thank you, Daphne. We wanted to share just a little bit about kind of looking ahead as well, what's coming and what we're already doing. So you'll notice we have a little bit fewer partners, but that's because of this multi-year commitment that we're making. So we want to be really thoughtful about the commitments we make. We want to make sure we know we can fund them for multiple years. And so we're going a little bit slower, making sure that we can strengthen those partnerships. And we feel really good about that. So very excited about our current projects. And like Daphne shared some of those numbers, some of those different causes that we're really investing into, they're represented in these projects around the world. So I hope that you'll go onto our website, look under our partner and project page and take a look at each of these. A little plug too for our monthly newsletter. We do highlight our partners every month with some stories and just kind of trying to spotlight the work that they're doing. It's another way we can amplify as part of our mission statement. And so hopefully you'll be able to follow along this year as we share even more stories of impact as they're happening. I also just wanted to reiterate the invitation for you to join us. There's so many ways that we can, as families and individuals and as communities, continue to show up and to support. I had mentioned our monthly donors earlier. We have a community, we call it the Roots community, because it really is like the roots of our grassroots movement and allows us to feel really confident when we make pledges to these partnerships that we have. But if you would even just consider a small monthly gift, that would just mean the world to us. It's just a signal that we can count on some funding in that way. And if there's a way for you to just activate your community, sometimes we're not in a position where we can make multiple gifts, or there's seasons throughout the year where we're able to do other things. We would love to be involved in your faith community. Maybe we could come and share or help mobilize a congregation or a group of people through either sharing or serving together, being able to have some mutual learning, maybe activate some excitement there for our global partnerships. And if you're a part of a school community, if there's a way that we can help give back by helping educate a classroom or a group of kids, or helping mobilize something like a walk or a fundraiser, we would just love to serve you in that way, because we know that ultimately doing that, it shapes the next generation to think thoughtfully and with compassion and care for our global communities. But it also then activates funding so that we can say yes to even more of these incredible leaders and communities. If you're a business, you have a unique opportunity to embed some global activity into your ecosystem, whether that's donating a small portion of your profit, whether that's something putting up a display in your sort of brick and mortar environment. We'd love to just be creative with you. So if there's a way for us to give back to you and for you to be able to really deeply engage in the work that we do here at One Day's Wages, we'd love to explore that with you. We also were really founded on this beautiful idea that we can leverage our birthdays for good. So we do have a page on our website where you can go and you can pledge your birthday, and we'll help support you by putting together a bit of a fundraiser that you can share online and be able to activate your community in that way. So I know I did that last year, and it was so meaningful to have friends that I haven't connected with in a long time make a gift in honor of my birthday towards a project that really meant a lot to me. So there's all kinds of ways, but the big idea here kind of goes back to our origin story, which is that together we can, as ordinary everyday people, make a huge difference in a world that needs a more just and beautiful future. For those of you in the Seattle area, we are also doing something a little bit new this spring. We're excited to gather. And so we're having an open house on May 31st. So if you are in the area, we would love to see you or meet you or see you again. It's a drop-in casual event. There's not a formal program, but we are going to have 3 sort of significant immersive project displays for you to be able to kind of see up close and personal some of the impact of your generosity. And one of those displays is going to be actually Garden of Hope, which Daphne had introduced Victor earlier. And so really excited to be able to just have a little bit of a visual to some of the things that are taking place around the world and that you've helped to activate. We're also going to have ice cream from 2 to 4 in the afternoon if that helps you plan your day. Feel free to check it out. It's online, onedayswages.org/open house. RSVPs help because I want to make sure there's enough food for everybody, but it's not necessary. We know that Sunday afternoons can be busy with family or rest, other commitments. So if you're able, join us. We would love that. And if you are not in the Seattle area, feel free, please, to send an email. Let's set up a Zoom call or a phone call. It is just my favorite thing ever to be able to connect with as many people as possible, get to know you and your story. This is a shared mission. This is shared work. And so we're just really grateful for you. And we want to make sure you feel invited and engaged to whatever degree that works for you. I have our emails here, Carissa at onedayswages.org, Daphne at onedayswages.org. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Daphne, anything else you want to say? I'm just so grateful we were able to have this conversation today.
Yeah, me too. It means a lot that you all showed up and want to learn. We love learning ourselves from our partners, and it's an encouragement to us when our community wants to learn more about our partnerships and the work that they're doing. So thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody.
Bye.